Have you ever watched a family, maybe even your own, and it just feels like everyone is part of this incredibly intricate dance? Everyone seems to know the steps, the turns, the dips, but maybe not everyone really knows why they're dancing that particular dance. Well, today, we're going to learn how to see that whole pattern, the hidden choreography that shapes our relationships. Let's pull back the curtain and see what's really going on.
Oh, you know the one I'm talking about. That argument that just spins up out of nowhere but somehow, always ends in the exact same place. It's that frustrating loop where your first instinct is to hit rewind and figure out, okay, who started this? Whose fault is it? And that's a totally human reaction. But what if? What if finding the starting point isn't the point at all?
So we're about to explore a really powerful shift in perspective. This is all about moving away from being a detective trying to find a single culprit and becoming more like a choreographer, learning to see the shared dance that everyone's a part of. We're going from finding fault to finding the pattern.
This slide just captures the whole idea so perfectly. On the left, you've got the linear view. This is how we usually think. A causes B. They were angry, so I withdrew. Simple, right? A straight line. But look at the right side, the systemic view. This is so much closer to reality. It's a circle. My withdrawal isn't just a reaction, it's also an action that influences their anger, which then, you guessed it, influences me to withdraw even more. It's not a one-way street, it's a continuous feedback loop.
Okay, so now that we can see this feedback loop, let's zoom out a bit. We're going to go from looking at the individual steps to seeing the entire dance floor, the system itself. And this system could be your family, your relationship, or even your team at work.
Let's put a name to this whole thing. Circular causality. This is really the engine of systemic thinking. Instead of seeing these isolated actions, we start to see the dynamic, ongoing interactions between people. The focus isn't on a single event, but on the process itself. It's not about that one thing someone said, but about the whole sequence of reactions that keeps that dance going.
And this quote, this really gets to the heart of it. It's a reminder that a problem rarely, if ever, lives inside just one person. It lives in the web of connections, in that space between people. So the issue isn't just one person's anger or another's anxiety. It's about how those feelings and behaviors interact and are actually kept in place by the entire system. Okay, so we've got the theory down. But how do we actually start seeing these invisible patterns in our own lives? Well, we need a tool, a new way of asking questions that helps us map out the dance instead of just getting swept up in it.
And this is the key question, isn't it? I mean, it's one thing to get this stuff intellectually, but it's a whole other thing to apply it when you're right in the middle of a tense conversation. The answer really lies in changing the kind of questions we ask ourselves and each other.
Right, so here's the thing. These questions aren't designed to find blame. They're mapping tools. Instead of asking, why are you so quiet, you could ask, when your mother gets quiet, what does your father do then? See the difference? The first question points a finger at a person. The second points to an interaction. Asking things like, who agrees with you, helps map out the alliances in the family. And reframing a behavior, like calling stubbornness creative, can totally change how the system sees itself and open up brand new possibilities.
All right, now we're going to go a level deeper. We've talked about seeing the pattern, but what if I told you that you actually have a hand in creating the pattern itself? This next idea is where you really discovered your power to create change.
This is the idea of constructivism, and it basically suggests that there isn't one single objective reality out there that we're all just reacting to. Instead, every single one of us is constantly building our own reality. Kind of like a storyteller, weaving a narrative from our personal history, our beliefs, and the words we use. The problem isn't just out there. It's also in the story we're telling ourselves about it.
This quote from Heinz von Forster is just so powerful. The environment is our invention. Just let that sink in for a second. It means the world you experience, the supportive family, the difficult boss, that frustrating relationship, is fundamentally shaped by your perception. Now, this isn't to say that bad things don't happen, but the meaning we give them, that's our creation. And that is an incredibly empowering thought. So, if we construct our own reality, how in the world do we change it when it's not working for us? Well, the answer isn't about using force or willpower. It's actually much more subtle than that. It's about introducing new information into the system, and then just letting it reorganize itself. And that brings us to this really fascinating concept. Autopoiesis. It literally means self-creation. The idea is that a living system, like your family, is fundamentally autonomous. It maintains its own rules, its own identity. You can't just reach in from the outside and force it to be different. But what you can do is nudge it. You can introduce a new idea, a new behavior, a new question. This is called a perturbation, and it can be just the thing to trigger the system to change itself from within.
So let's break this down into simple steps. First, there's a perturbation, that nudge from the outside. Maybe you try responding differently in an argument, or you ask one of those circular questions we talked about. Second, the system responds, but, and this is so important, it responds according to its own logic, not yours. Finally, if that nudge is significant enough, the system actually reorganizes itself to incorporate the new information. You see? Change is an inside job for the system.
Whew, we've covered some pretty big ideas, right? From seeing circular patterns to understanding that we construct our own reality, and that change has to come from within a system. So, let's bring it all together. How do you actually use this in your own life?
You know, adopting this systemic view gives you an incredible amount of power. You can start to recognize patterns that have been passed down for generations. You can reframe your own story, seeing yourself not just as a victim of circumstances, but as an active participant in a system. And by understanding your role in the dance, you gain the ability to choose a new step, to break those unhealthy cycles, and to really envision a different future for yourself and your relationships. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this thought. Now that you have a map of the dance, now that you can see the hidden choreography and you know that you are one of the dancers, what new step, however small, can you choose to take next?